It's awarded for a generous and selfless dedication to people who have been displaced, who are going through homeless, and for the advancement of the mission of the organization that tries to combat that too. The award's named for the founder of this organization, Dean Lindsay. In 1993, Dean Lindsay actually went to a congregation in Carmel. The way the story, as I've heard it, is it was a random Tuesday night, 1993, and a lady had flown in from New Jersey to give a presentation. I heard less than a dozen people actually attended that night. I don't know if it's true, but less than a dozen people. I imagine this lady, Karen Olson, was a little sad that it wasn't well attended. But Dean Lindsay had two interesting characteristics. He was recently retired and newly inspired by her. And that can be a very powerful combination. He had time and purpose. And he took her talk of how congregations got together in New Jersey and created a shelter network. And he made that happen with a lot of other passionate volunteers here in Greater Indianapolis. And so he was the first board president. He was a volunteer forever. And when he passed away in 2012, they named the Lifetime Leadership Award after him. We're honored actually to be accompanied tonight by many of the past award winners. So maybe give a wave if I say your name and you're here. We have Wilbur Sutton, Jeremy Baber, Nancy Harden, Joe Flynn, Marcia Angstead, Marcellus Velosky, Mitch Katz, Bob Dillingham, Dolly Kraft, and Brenda Myers. Those are all the past awards. Today's award, I have the bittersweet, you'll find out why it's bittersweet, privilege to present it to someone who worked tirelessly to advance this mission. The word tirelessly, I think, is kind of thrown around a lot, but I mean it this time, and I'll tell you a story about why. I used to be the executive director of Family Promise decades ago, it feels like. And that's great, I had a couple drinkers. But my 7th month on the job, we got really lucky. The stars aligned in the universe, and Scott Swan from WTHR, another celebrity, was going to do a story on Family Promise. He went to Allisonville Christian Church, a hosting congregation, to interview some of the families they were hosting, and he was going to run the story the next day. I got home after visiting those passionate volunteers, and it hit me. We got a really big problem. Our website is quite outdated. We haven't had time to update it yet. And soon, about 1 million people in the greater Indianapolis area are going to see our website on the news. So I called a gentleman named Pat Eckert. Pat Eckert had been a board member forever, a volunteer with Family Promise, and I said, Pat, I know it's 9 p.m. Would you be willing to stay up all night and maybe redo our website with me for the next 7 or 8 hours, along with Lacey's sister Lauren? She helped out too. Pat, without hesitation, said, sure. How do we do it? Over the next 7 hours, we traded more than 70 emails. He updated all the content when I sent him paragraph after paragraph. Lauren did the photos, but Pat did the heavy lifting. And by 4 a.m., we had a brand new website that looked like we paid $10,000 to $20,000 to a professional company to do it. That's how good it was. And when the news aired the story about Family Promise at 5 a.m., 6 a.m., 5 p.m., 6 p.m., whatever they did, all those people saw that professional site. Because Pat, I was paid to do it, and I took the next day off of work, to be honest. Pat was a volunteer, and I still remember waking up around 3 p.m. or something, had to get the kids, I don't know what it was. And my inbox had emails from him around noon about donor recognition and other stuff. So he did not take the day off from his volunteer work with us. But Pat didn't just work on our website. Pat also served for more than a decade on the Home Sweet Home Committee. If you ever gave $1 in the dessert auction, bought something in the silent auction, saw your company logo on the webpage, that was because Pat did it on the back end as a volunteer, never without any pay. If that's not all though, for every year I was director and then some, Pat updated our database and donor records, something that now we have a full-time development director for. That's how much Pat was involved with the organization. And Kayla's doing a great job in his stead now. His mobility was limited due to the loss of his legs previous in his life, so he became what I'll call a keyboard volunteer, and sometimes did well over 40 hours a week on the back end. All the jobs that nobody wants to do, Pat stepped in to do them. And I'll never forget, about 7 months ago, I got an email from Pat's daughter, Julie, and it said that Pat had actually passed away unexpectedly, but peacefully, in his home on February 9th of this year. That was a Friday evening, And I looked in my inbox, and sure enough, I had a couple emails from Pat asking if the report he pulled from our website was how we needed it to start thanking donors in our weekly process. He was working up until his last dying day, volunteering for this mission to combat homelessness. Now, before we award this award to Pat posthumously, I wanted to say Pat worshipped in the Christian faith, and I do too. So with respect to all religions here, I'm going to use a little bit of Christian imagery. You could call it childish, but in those days, I like to picture Pat getting to the heavenly gates and St. Peter, Jesus, standing there with arms held wide, and Pat begging to go back so he could just polish one more report for Family Promise so that we thank all of you for your donation, or we get that logo on the website. But then I also imagine Pat maybe seeing a golf course in the background, having a fully mobile body for the first time in years, and resting in peace knowing that we got it from here, and the wonderful staff and volunteers who continue to have it from here. So I have the honor tonight to present the Gene P. Lindsay Lifetime Leadership Award posthumously to Pat Eckert, and I'd like you to give a round of applause to his daughter, Julie Eckert, who volunteers on the Home Sweet Home for Me and is here tonight.
There's one fallacy in what I have to say, and that is anytime anybody ever called my dad for a favor or help, he never said sure. He always said no. If you needed help building a fence, it was no problem. Need your website? No problem. Can you pick up my daughter from school in 10 minutes? No problem. It's always no problem for him. I remember as a kid, I was maybe 7 or 8, and my dad was a volunteer for our local fire department. We were a he was treasurer for our local church, and I asked him one day, why do you do all these things you don't pay? And he said, because somebody has to. And he asked me with his life, in full service, because somebody has to. So I'm proud to accept this on his behalf, although he would have absolutely hated the recognition. And I will ask each of you, as you consider what you're giving, and you consider donating for dessert, remember that somebody has to. And today that's